For all of you filmmakers out there who are looking for a way to expand your frame rates and resolution, you've probably taken a look at the very affordable line of Lumix DSLRs. And for most people, you're likely to notice the GH4. It's known for being one of the cheapest options you can do for having an interchangeable lens with a 4K camera. But then there's our old enemy, money. Given the GH4, just the body without any lens costs $1,000 to $1,200, and a lot of us don't have that kind of money to spend. So a while back, I bought the FZ300, which is what I'm recording with right now, and I found it a great compromise because it seemed to have the same sensor as the GH4, so I could still do 4K or 1080 at 60, and it included a lens. Plus, it was much cheaper. At my time, it was around $600. So I've been using it, and it's been great. I've used it on a ton of my videos, shooting in 4K for a cinematic look, and then for my YouTube videos, I've been doing lots of 1080 at 60 frames a second. And then later on, its younger brother, the FZ300, came out, so I was curious because it was even cheaper and even more compact. So this keeps everything the FZ1000 can do, but in an even smaller, more portable device. And I'll just come forward, it's better than the 1000. There you go. But first of all, I have to say, I really do not care for the interface with Lumix cameras. On the FZ1000, you have to press like the ISO button to get a video to play. Things just aren't very user-friendly at all. A lot of the settings are kind of designed weird. There's two buttons on the camera that do the exact same thing. The photo button and the record button do exactly the same thing. Coming from an Apple sheep, you know, a complicated OS is not fun to work with. But I put up with it because it was affordable and you got a good resolution out of it. I used to have a Canon T2i, and Canon has a very friendly user interface that I miss so much. Unfortunately though, if you want a high-end spec'd camera that's made by Canon, you're gonna be paying top dollar. However, the FZ300 makes it a lot easier to navigate through Lumix settings because it has a touchscreen. It's a much more simple way to navigate through all your videos and pictures. You can even pinch to zoom on certain ones, and now you don't have to understand what this complicated button management thing is. You can just tap the screen to say play. It's that easy. Not to mention that this display looks much better than the real basic one on the FZ1000. And of course, they essentially have the exact same sensor. If you put them next to each other, I'm sure you could pick out some tiny little difference, but honestly, no one's gonna notice. No one could identify that's the FZ300, that's the FZ1000. You just can't tell. So for those of you out there who want high-end specs, this is my go-to choice if you want to be affordable. So how cheap can 4K or 1080 at 60 get? That's again, like not on a smartphone because you still want to be able to zoom in and stuff. I could not replicate my videos with a smartphone because I always have to zoom in the lens quite a bit to match this environment looking style. Just, you know, get those old computers on one side, these old computers on the other. I like to crop it in. A smartphone compresses it. This is not compressed. And for only $500 on the FZ300, you're getting gorgeous footage that looks future-proof with the 4K or 1080 at 60, just so you're hip and with it. And it also has Wi-Fi built in, so you can download the Panasonic imaging app on your iPad and smartphone, which, by the way, these apps work, but they're definitely not optimized for my iPad Pro or even my iPhone 6 Plus. They've kind of ignored these apps, but you can connect it to your camera and control your camera remotely and even preview what the camera's seeing, which I've done a few times and that's very helpful. Just don't expect the most seamless experience. Now, some of you may have the giant issue, which is the lens does not come off the FZ1000 or the FZ300. You're stuck with the lens it comes with. There's no changing it. But you know what? That lens isn't a crappy lens. On the FZ1000, you get a 24 to 400 millimeter lens, which is already pretty insane that something can go that wide and then zoom in that far. And on the FZ300, they took it a step further. And now it's a 24 to 600 millimeter lens, so you can zoom even further in if 400 wasn't enough for you. And the built-in stabilizer is very effective to where I actually shoot a ton of my videos handheld and it doesn't look terrible. The stabilizer, however, does create a lot of in-camera noise that you can't really get rid of. So I would recommend using some kind of external audio, whether it be a shotgun mic or a just separate audio recorder. They're getting real cheap now. Just please don't use the on-camera mic. Here's what it sounds like, which means less than an inch difference with the 9.7-inch iPad Pro or the iPad Air, if that's what you have. I have no clue what they call it, the iPad Pro. And another thing a lot of you might not like is there's no more lens ring. FZ1000 had one, but it wasn't a physical one. It wasn't really moving the lenses within the camera. It's just digitally reading your movements and then electronically moving the lens, which I kind of like better, honestly, because it's a lot more smooth. It's a lot more precise than my hand could ever be. But with this, they got rid of the ring entirely. And there's a little crown right here where you can adjust the focus. But personally, I love using the touchscreen to focus on things. That saves me a ton of time. So you see something you want to be in focus, you just tap on it. That's a lot better than trying to get the ring to get right where you like it. But it's a personal preference thing. Maybe you like that, maybe you don't, whatever. I've done photography as well with the FZ300, and while I think you can take pretty cool pictures with it, I think you should probably stick with the Canon Rebel camera if photography is your main purpose. I think photography takes a lot more of different types of lenses, as in ultrasonic lenses and red rings. Those things make pictures look great, and I think Canon sensors, while they may not be 4K or 1080 at 60 for the average consumer ones, they are better at pulling out extremely high-res, quality-looking photos. Better than this thing is, I think. And I'm not saying it takes terrible photos, I'm just saying its competition for about the same price can do it better. But what it is strong in is video. I'd recommend it for someone who's doing exactly what I'm doing right now, making YouTube videos. When you want it to be cinematic, if you're kind of a short film amateur filmmaker, it can be. You crank up that resolution to 4K. On my videos, that's really handy because if you have the camera on a tripod, but you want it to feel like it was shot by someone, you can zoom it in a little bit, and in After Effects, make the angle wiggle so it feels a little bit handheld, and that gives a bit more motion to it. It feels a bit more lively than just two stable stationary tripod shots. And since you're filming at that 4K resolution, you're not losing any quality. It still looks really good. Or maybe you want to crop in that aspect ratio and upload it. It would still look really good. Or for simple videos, maybe a tech video, maybe a face cam even to match your 60 frames a second gameplay. This can do 1080 at 60 as it is right now, and it looks great. It kind of helps you get an edge across other channels because if they have good internet, it'll autoplay at 720 at 60 or 1080 at 60, and they'll kind of go, whoa, this guy kind of knows what he's doing. At least that's what I think happens with mine. I don't really know if you think that. I don't know. It feels like you're a bit more in the future. Feels like you're more with it. So of course, if you want to see any test footage from this thing, more of it that is, go to the main channel at just Tailosive with no adjective. It's just called Tailosive. All the videos on that channel within the last year have been filmed on this camera. Most of which I've uploaded in 4K with a few exceptions just because they were such large projects. But yeah, go ahead and crank that YouTube quality up and see what it looks like. And then of course, every video on this tech channel for about the past year has also been filmed on the FZ300. So thanks for watching. I hope that review made sense to you. I know it's not usually my topic to go into cameras, but I've been using it for quite a while. And you know what? I really love this camera, despite it having a crappy interface. So this is your Apple Sheep here, and I will see you in the next one.